I think like product marketers, we can get a little scared of them sometimes. Like they know so much about the product and they're, oh, they hate us, do they just want us to write their blog posts? But I have actually found over the years, like product marketers to be some of my best advocates when we can really agree on shared goals.
Welcome to the Animals Podcast. I'm Ty Magnan, the CEO at Animals.
And I'm Tim Metz, the Director of Marketing and Innovation.
This season on the Animals Podcast, we are pulling back the corporate curtain to show you how the largest, most complex B2B SaaS teams actually get content out the door. Hear from content leaders at some of the biggest names in SaaS, sharing the systems they've built, the battles they've fought, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, we are joined by Heike Young. Heike Young is the head of content, social, and integrated marketing at Microsoft under their advertising or AI business. Before Microsoft, Heike led content teams at Salesforce for almost a decade. And if you check her out on LinkedIn, which I recommend you do, she has a solid following and produces these delightful, short-form, humorous videos about B2B content and B2B marketing at large. Excited for you to take a listen into our conversations today with Heike Young. If you're like most B2B content marketers, you want to lead the conversation in your industry. At Animals, we help B2B software companies do exactly that by creating standout, survey-driven, state-of-the-industry type reports that help you grow your brand authority, backlinks, and pipeline. In just 12 weeks, we run a process that helps uncover narratives from a unique data set packaged into a beautifully designed flagship content asset that your whole team is going to be proud of. Book a consult now at animals.co/whitepapers and find out how to set the new benchmark for your industry. Heike, thank you so much for joining the Animals Podcast. Welcome. The way we start every episode, as you well know, is with this critical fastball question. What content have you been consuming lately?
Oh my gosh. I wish that I could say that it was some super cerebral, highbrow content, like a really insightful book that I got at the library. But I really try to let my brain rot as much as I need to in the evenings after a long day of work. And recently I started watching The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and it's been a balm to my soul just to disconnect and totally tune out. So I really enjoy that one. Shout out to my friend Paul, who recommended specifically the Salt Lake City Housewives, because there's so many of these seasons and like I can't get into Real Housewives if there's going to be like 10 or 11 seasons. I just haven't seen enough of the show. So Salt Lake City is like perfect. There's a couple seasons. You can get into the drama and just like be done.
There's a hack there of like, to create great content during the day, you have to watch, junk content in the evening.
Everybody has their own process. And there's probably some content marketers I really respect who are like, yes, love Salt Lake City, Real Housewives. That's the best. And then there's probably some other ones who are like, oh no, I no longer have any respect for Heike. And if that's you, that's totally fair. No problem, no harm, no foul. But hopefully we'll get into some other things that I in this podcast that I can earn some of your respect back.
And maybe with that, we could start with a short intro. So a little bit about your background and then your current role at Microsoft. I'm also curious what attracted you to this role in particular.
Yeah, I'm so glad you invited me on this show because I understand it's specifically for content marketers, and content marketing is like, that is just my very favorite part of the modern, kind of B2B marketing role and responsibilities stack. It's where I came up through is many, many years in content marketing. And, I guess if I'm taking a step back, I am in marketing because I get to make cool things with other people. I love the creative process and I love the collaborative nature of getting to make things with others at work. So whether it's a video, a research report, an integrated campaign, new brand messaging, whatever it might be, that is really what keeps me in this field and what gets me out of bed every morning is that creative flow and that process. I started my career in book publishing. And so I was, English literature major, writing and editing was kind of my background. I edited books for a little while. And I found that for me, the publishing industry was pretty slow paced. Think about it. You edit this book for 8-9 months. By the time you publish it, some of the stats might already be out of date and you might need to publish an addendum. And so I really craved something with more immediacy. And so I found my way into social media marketing. So my very first marketing job was as an organic social manager, but then we also did a lot with content at the agency that I worked at. And so, you can't really have social content without content to talk about. And so it's like I think these functions, in my mind, they've always been like peanut butter and jelly or matcha and boba. Like they just content and social have to go together. It's just like the perfect pairing. And so did some social stuff at an agency for a while, added on a lot more content responsibilities. And then that is when I began to kind of hear, I mean, honestly, I think just like I didn't have some grand plan when I set out on this path to work at Salesforce and work at Microsoft and be in B2B tech. To be honest, as a young person growing up in Indianapolis without a lot of tech companies around me, I had heard from some of my friends in Indianapolis that there was this really cool tech company, ExactTarget, and I heard that the benefits were really good if you worked there. I heard that the office was really nice. And when you're in your 20s, these are the things that you care about. And so it wasn't some Machiavellian plan to get into tech and get the RSUs. At that point, it was really just, oh, this seems like it would be a cool place to work. And they got content marketing as a new job. And so I was the first content marketing hire at this company, ExactTarget. And so I, was hired on to do research reports and, run a bunch of blog content, et cetera, do some ghostwriting for executives. A few months after I started working there, that company was acquired by Salesforce. And so that is sort of like my, origin story of how I got into this crazy world. Then I moved into the brand content marketing team at Salesforce. I was quickly thrust into this very high growth tech environment. And Salesforce at the time, it was really like at the center of a lot of these really big movements and changes in marketing, things like community marketing and the Trailblazer program. They were doing a lot of things with events and branding that I think were pretty innovative and still are. And so, it was just kind of as fate would have it. That's sort of how I came into this world. I did a number of different content marketing jobs over the years at Salesforce on that brand team, but also on like a product marketing team and more of a channel centric team running things like the YouTube channel for a couple of years. So I just was able to jump around to a lot of different roles and opportunities within Salesforce. And after 10 or so years of doing that, it was kind of time for me to get a new role, find a different pep in my step. If anybody listening to this, you've been with the same company for a long time, you know how it is. Like you get super comfortable and you just need that little push to get you out of your comfort zone. And so that's where I was last year and kind of what brought me to Microsoft.
Yeah. And tell us about your current role at Microsoft and what attracted you to it.
Great question. So my current role, I think it's super awesome. I'm still so grateful that they picked me. They had a ton of great candidates. My current role is head of content, social, and integrated marketing for some products that live under the Microsoft AI division. So there's this really awesome guy, Mustafa Suleiman, who heads up MAI or Microsoft AI. And this is all of the really cool innovation around, Copilot and AI and all of this amazing stuff that's happening within Microsoft. There's an incredible TED Talk from Mustafa about AI. If you just go on YouTube and search for it, I would highly recommend it if you are at all AI curious and just you want sort of a future looking view into some of this stuff, but you're also not totally sure where it's headed. That would be a great one that I would look into right away. And my world is sort of the B2B arm, which is all about Microsoft advertising products. So there's all of these advertising products that live under MAI, and it's basically just like advertising on Microsoft surfaces. So this could be ads that happen in Bing. It could be Copilot in Bing. There's a lot of ads you could do through like Activision and gaming, etc. And so Xbox. And so it's basically all of these different places where you can advertise as a marketer or advertiser through the Microsoft ecosystem to the many, billions of users that are on Microsoft devices and in those systems every single day. So it's a bit of marketing to marketers, a bit of marketing to advertisers and people who are kind of on the forefront of creativity. And I think what attracted me to this job the most was the mix of areas that I'm able to oversee. And again, it's sort of like that mix of content, social, and integrated marketing, which is really just like campaigns is the way we think about it. So it's like integrated campaign work streams where we're funneling a bunch of different virtual teams toward a specific outcome, within the context of these campaigns. So the campaign has a dedicated audience and objective, a bunch of tactics that were used to land that message with our target audience. And so, as I was looking for content roles last year, I had been promoted from content specialist to senior director of content strategy at Salesforce. And there just, to be honest, like there just weren't that many great content leadership roles out there that I saw. And I think that's a miss. There should be a lot of high level, content leadership roles out in the world, but it's kind of like you're forced to take some different paths. Like maybe you go do VP of brand, or, there could be some other ways. And some companies do have VP of content, but it's few and far between. And so I was really interested in this job because it was one of the only ones that I saw, to be frank, on my job hunt that combined a few of these things together and just really had enough inertia around distribution and actually getting all this content out to market. And so it's not just how can we create the most number of blog posts, it's how do we really resonate with our target audience through all of these different work streams. And so it's super cool. My team also has, like, I've got a team member that just works on customer success stories. I have somebody that just works on employee influencer programs for social. And so, I'm able to kind of tie a lot of these things together in a much more strategic way.
That's awesome. What a journey you've been on and what a cool opportunity you're at. If we can help the audience understand the role of content at Microsoft or at, Microsoft AI, that would be huge. It's usually hard to define, but curious how you would articulate that. And maybe you've hit on it already, talking about distribution, and then, there's this integrated campaigns piece, but what would you say the role of content at MAI is?
It's an awesome question. And I think when I started this job, I put together a few slides for the team about my content philosophy, because even though I'm managing integrated campaigns and social in this broader functional area, I would say content is the one where I was really hired to kind of make a big impact on day one. There wasn't a lot of content being created in this strategic way. And so I was kind of coming out the gate with a lot of perspective and inertia around content strategy specifically. And I remember putting together a deck for the team, and I essentially told them, I am not here to create high performing content for you. I am here to help this group change our audience's hearts and minds when it comes to Microsoft advertising. And we have to shift perspectives with our target audience. They don't necessarily know about the Microsoft surfaces that they could be advertising on. They may know a lot about the competitors out there that they could be advertising with. And our awareness, to be clear, is not really the problem. Like, they know that Microsoft advertising exists. And so the role of content is not kind of that top of funnel, increase brand awareness by creating the ultimate guide to XYZ topics, type of content marketing. It's really more offering our bold point of view, our spicy POVs around changes and shifts happening in the market, layering in how generative AI and capabilities with Microsoft are going to help you up level your marketing and advertising strategies, and really convincing people to work with us and invest with us. And so it is more of a, if you want to think of it as a funnel, almost more of a middle and bottom funnel strategy, mixed with, of course, like thought leadership and some of those spiky point of views to attract a broader audience. So those are some of the things that I am thinking about as I'm tackling the content strategy.
Can you speak to also what does team look like? Like, how many people on the team? What kind of roles do they have?
Org charts are so fascinating to me. And I was at a session at Content Marketing World a few years ago. It was like, there was a panel and a few different brands were talking about their content teams, and people showed a slide of their org charts. Every single phone went up to take a picture because I think it's like, we never know, like what other people's org charts look like. It's like, well, what the heck is that? And so within our team, I report to a brand marketing leader. So he's like our senior director of brand marketing for this area. He reports to a general manager / global CMO for this area. So she's like our marketing lead. And then my boss is our brand marketing lead. And then my team is, a few different parts. So social media. So I have a couple people helping me. They've got social responsibilities, also a couple other things that they do, but there's a couple of people that are helping me like day to day with social. One person that's mostly dedicated to kind of that employee influencer stuff that I mentioned. There's a content team that has primarily one person powered by a big agency support model. So, like an editorial manager, content marketing manager doing a lot of editorial guidance, content marketing operations, and content analytics, and then supported by an agency that does a lot of writing for us and just a lot of that really creating a bunch of content. And then there are 4 integrated marketers on the team. And so these are my like campaign leads. They have one, maybe one and a half, maybe like a smaller campaign each. And one of those people is entirely dedicated to customer success stories, so that they are sort of the connective tissue between me and the content and social strategy and the rest of the organization. So they would have a virtual team put together for their campaign. They would have weekly calls with the product marketers and the other stakeholders that are working on that virtual team. And then we work really closely together on bringing the full vision to life through content, social, and these integrated campaigns. So, some of the pieces shift a little bit here and there, but that's kind of at a high level how everything is structured.
Nice. In our correspondences leading up to today, you talked about the 4 wheels of the car, right? We're talking about stakeholders for your integrated campaigns and for content. Can you help the audience understand, like, what are the 4 wheels of the car for you? Does it only apply to Microsoft? Does it apply to all content types? How do you see that? And then maybe we can get into after that, like the stakeholder relationships and how do you relate to product marketing versus demand or some of the other wheels of the car?
Yes. So I have to shout out some of my former colleagues at Salesforce who really helped me live out a lot of changes together. We saw a lot of content transformation when I was there. And there was a whole bunch of us content marketers at Salesforce several years ago that embarked on something that internally we called the content revolution because we saw that there was this need inside of the company to really be revolutionary and how we were distributing gated content, using forms, using all of these kind of old school tactics to market our ideas to our audience. And so we put together this framework a few years ago together where we're doing this to really spark cross-functional collaboration, which you spoke to. And so it was this idea of the 4 wheels of the car, and I'll explain exactly what they are. So we felt like to make the car go, to make the ideas go, you would need content, like a content strategy arm, a creative arm. So somebody that's looking at the branding, the look and feel, somebody doing product marketing. So guiding everything with the messaging and with regards to how this actually supports and ladders up to the product narrative. And so you got content, creative, product marketing, and then campaigns or demand gen kind of being that last one. And some organizations will structure that role a little bit differently depending on how their sales team works, et cetera. But at Salesforce, it was really sort of like a campaigns team that was doing a lot of paid boosting of the content, making sure that if we were doing ABM or events, like
Email.
all of that was wrapped up into a demand gen. Yes, like all of that was wrapped up together. And so we came up with this model. We felt like these 4 functional areas really need to not only play nice together in the sandbox, but they need to be deeply, deeply integrated. And so with varying degrees of success, I'd say some of the years that we did it, it worked better than others. But the goal was to have an integrated planning process where we didn't have a creative strategy being made over here and a content plan being made over here and product marketing doing their thing. But it was all 4 of these groups coming together on one slide deck that brought the full team to bear. And I bring that same philosophy to my team. Now at Microsoft, some of the players are slightly different, but I really think in most organizations, you have to bring probably all of those functions together in order to be really, really successful.
Yeah, they all have something to bring to the table, no doubt. Like, what is content without creative? and you're going to get in trouble if you don't loop in the product marketing team and get that messaging right.
And I think like product marketers, we can get a little scared of them sometimes. Like they know so much about the product and they're, oh, they hate us, do they just want us to write their blog posts and they think that we're just the content intern team. Are they gonna just throw all of our ideas into chat GPT or something if push comes to shove? But I have actually found over the years like product marketers to be some of my best advocates when we can really agree on shared goals and like shared objectives, and when you really show them that you're thinking through their ICP, their goals, you're using their messaging the way that you're supposed to. I'd say probably some of the best content plans I've ever made in my career were ones where I got into a room with a team of product marketers and I used their exact frameworks to just be the foundation of my content plans. And I'm not going to take the exact words that they use. Some of them might be a little cheesy or not audience centric or whatever they might be, but I'm going to take that framework because they have laid out, this is the ICP, this is the product they should buy. They have laid out that information. I'm going to layer that with what I know about channel performance, about audience insights, etc. We're going to combine that. And then once we do, we can sort of be unstoppable. So, if you can, I think if you can get your product marketers aligned to where they see that the content's going to perform so much better once you're working on it, they will be your best friends.
So I love the positive outlook on that and sort of how you think about what a good collaboration looks like between content and product marketing. One role that wasn't in the car, or one of the wheels of the car, and I'm curious where you tuck it in, is what do we want to call it? Marketing ops, or like measurement or analytics? How do you see that part? Like, where does that part sit? Is it under demand gen? Is it under an integrated campaign manager? Or maybe it's different roles.
One of the best content teams that I've ever been a part of was probably the one where my VP of content had a direct report that was like the director of content operations reporting to her. And this person was just in charge of the tech stack for all of the content marketers. This person was in charge of one dashboard that every content marketing company could use and access with all of the data in it. They would do regular refreshes of that dashboard and really treated it like a product that we could all, access and benefit from, and get analytics from, and just have every content marketer in the company measuring the same way. I've seen too many times that when these things are not centralized and everybody's measuring things their own way, somebody's coming out of the woodwork, especially in bigger orgs. If you're at a smaller company, you might not really relate to what I'm saying, but if you're in a bigger org, few hundred employees, 1,000 plus employees, there's people that come out of the woodwork. They say, oh, I just did our best performing blog post ever. Look at this. It got this many views. And then somebody else says, well, what dashboard are you looking at? Because the one I'm looking at says this is the highest performing piece of content. And then someone else says, oh, no, but you aren't looking. You didn't, we've got this Adobe dashboard over here. And so suddenly everybody is not speaking the same language. They're not speaking from the same data set. And this is a really big problem at big companies. Not everybody is reporting from the same information, and they're just not all aligned. So I would say it depends on kind of how this is structured. I would say at many companies today, I would probably, with the proliferation of like great writing talent out there that you can access on a freelance basis, so many great agencies that are out there that can support you. Honestly, I just feel like I would rather have a content marketing manager focus heavily on operations and analytics than just like being an editor and like copywriter these days, especially with all the tools that you could use, whether they're, Grammarly, whether you train an internal agent on your editorial guidelines. Like there's so many tools and so many ways you could empower people to focus on the editorial stuff. Like I would rather just have a content marketing manager or leader that's looking after some of that ops and analytics stuff in a really structured way.
I like that answer a lot because I think content teams sometimes don't take ownership over that dashboarding, over the measurement of the work that's being done, that they're doing, right, or responsible for. And sometimes they leave it to demand gen or marketing ops, or like it sits somewhere else. But really, maybe they don't get, the attention, the kinds of reports they really need to be most successful in order to like, advocate for themselves in the
Yep.
business. So I like the idea of like having that be an internal seat. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and it's easy to just kind of say, oh, well, we didn't get the data that we wanted, so we're just not going to use it. Or, oh, well, we're still waiting on XYZ, and just not take ownership. And I just don't think that is a good in most situations. Look, if you're listening to this, you're like, no, I truly don't have any way to access the data. They've locked it up. I mean, you are between a rock and a hard place. And by all means, take a load off, go log off for the day. Don't stress yourself out about this anymore. You've done enough, and you should just stop trying if people are truly disempowering you in this way. But if there is a way for you to get some ownership of that data and do it yourself and like DIY this type of dashboard, even if it's a slide once a month, you're like, hey, once a month we do this slide on our blog channel, our social channel, we update these specific things, something you can actually go dig up the metrics for and own and come back to your leadership and say, here's what we did. I always think it behooves you to have ownership of that stuff.
I like it.
Are there other roles that you would love to see on content teams that are not on the content teams that often, or like new roles that you see emerging that you're excited about?
The two jobs that when I first joined this team, there were two roles that I really saw critically important that we didn't have somebody dedicated, kind of full-time staff for. And I touched on them a little bit, but one was a dedicated customer success stories person, and the other was a dedicated kind of employee social influencer person. And for both of those roles, like I had one person had been doing a bunch of customer success stuff previously, but it was, with a little bit more of like a sales focus. And with that job, I was really trying to bring it into the integrated marketing model. So like, regardless of what your campaign is, when you need a customer story in that research report or in that social campaign or whatever it is, you have a person to go to that has relationships with sales, that knows how to get these customers talking, that has templates for all these things, and is improving those templates over time and rooting them in the rest of our content strategy. And so that was like super, super important to me. This is some customer success stories is something that was really, I guess, instilled in me when I was at Salesforce. If you've ever been to a Salesforce event, that they lead with customer stories. Like you show up for Dreamforce and every single billboard in the city is like littered with pictures of the customer, not the Salesforce executives, right? It's the customers. And that's one thing that the company does really well. And then the other thing that I had somebody start focusing on was this idea of employee influencers and employee advocacy on social media. And I don't see that many content teams doing this role yet. And I think we will very soon. We already are starting to see more teams take on this focus. But, I've spent the past year plus of my personal life kind of dedicating a lot of my time to figuring out what works on LinkedIn, what are some of the trends there in terms of like innovative content on LinkedIn. And it just struck me as I came into this job and I got ownership of a LinkedIn and an Instagram account. One of my very first days, I pulled up the analytics for the LinkedIn page that I manage. And it's got, 5,000 plus followers. Like it's not a tiny page. It's not huge by any means, but it's a decent sized page in the grand scheme of B2B marketing, especially for something where nobody's been pushing it that hard, right? They've done a little bit of organic content, but not a ton. And one of my first days, I opened up the analytics. I had only seen like my personal analytics for the past year on LinkedIn, and I was just like used to those numbers. And so when I went in and I saw that there were posts that had like hundreds of impressions, like a few hundred impressions or something, I was like, wait, what is going on here? And it became so clear to me. LinkedIn, all these other platforms, and I love LinkedIn. Shout out to LinkedIn. Microsoft owns them. Best social media platform ever. I spend a ton of my time using LinkedIn. I love it. But like, they want you to buy ads on LinkedIn. They don't want you to get free organic reach for every single brand post that you put out there. And so it makes so much sense that personal profiles would outperform company profiles every day of the week. And so I'm like, you're putting me in charge of social media. What you think you're doing is giving me control of this LinkedIn account. What I'm actually going to do is make our employees vertical video celebrities, right? And put their content in front of our target audience in new ways. And so we basically stood up, a whole program for this. There's decks, there's slides that employees can use. Like, I'm way more interested in 20 employees that are going to do this really well than 100 people copying and pasting links, to our blog posts. Like, that doesn't really interest me. I'm interested in those 15 or 20 people that see the value, and they're going to wake up in the morning thinking, how can I turn this customer meeting into a cool video? Or how can I, film something at this event that I'm at and make it into a really interesting TikTok? Like, those are the people that I'm super excited to work with.
Man, there is so much to unpack here. So yeah, excited we made it to this point in the podcast. So for folks listening, if you haven't seen Heike's LinkedIn, go there now. Okay. It is fun. It is clever. It's funny. And really she's kind of, I don't know, what do we call it? Like you've mastered this kind of genre of
LinkToks. Yeah, I don't know. LinkTok is something that some people call it, like the combination LinkedIn and TikToks, the shorts, you could call them shorts. Yeah. And I know, like, I hear people complain sometimes. They're like, oh, I just don't want LinkedIn to turn into TikTok. Like, I like LinkedIn the way that it was. But we have different media for telling different types of stories. The types of stories that I tend to gravitate toward, a lot of times they are a little bit more humorous, like a skit, a sketch, like there's a character being portrayed. And I just have never found a way to do exactly that in like a text post. Like, I find that a video is a really compelling medium for exactly what I'm trying to do. So I try to bring that while also educating people. Like, I'm not trying to purely just, entertain you for absolutely no business value for you, no career growth value for you whatsoever. Like, hopefully you will leave a tiny bit more informed about something, but also entertained. So I think we can have both on LinkedIn, and definitely not trying to take away anybody's text posts. I am trying to take away the polls, though. Those good polls, I'm sorry, we just don't need the polls on LinkedIn. We're all done with the polls, right?
Yes, you heard it first here. No more polls. And also, I love that you came clean on like the algorithm favoring the individuals. It's like, okay, yes, we've heard about this. We've talked about this. It feels a little more official hearing it from you, being a Microsoft person.
To be clear, nobody has ever told me that. Like, no one's, I know a few people from LinkedIn. They're all wonderful. Nobody's ever said to me, oh yeah, the brand profiles underperform the personal profiles. From my standpoint, it always does better on the personal page by many times over. And it's not just the engagement, because I think there's an element of course, you want to engage with the person. Like, if I'm just thinking about me, I'm the consumer, put on my consumer hat. If I see you guys post a video, I'm more likely to like that than animals posting a video, right? Because I want to support you. I want you to think, oh yeah, Heike, gave me a high five virtually today by liking my video. Like, I'm thinking about your reaction to it, and like I want to be kind and supportive. Whereas, I see a brand post something, my immediate reaction isn't give love to a brand per se. And some brands are, they're creating great content, and that's exactly. It's like, and so, I think that it stands to reason. And so if you are a person, especially in B2B, I just think if you're a person in charge of social, take the brand page. The brand page is like a tiny part of the equation. Like, think about everything else that social needs. Like, social doesn't equal organic posting from a brand account.
Right. Heike, take us back to your 2K months or year. Okay. You had 2K followers, not 32K. I'm imagining you didn't like nail it on the first go. Right. And as we all know, putting content out there, like, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're in a vulnerable state. Can you take us through maybe like what some of those first iterations were, and kind of like how you found your way to this what seems like pretty dialed in formula that's helping you grow your reach?
And that you're also teaching others, right? Let's then go into that.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And yeah, I have kind of, based on my learnings, I had so many people over the past, especially like half a year or so, start to ping me and ask me like, well, what kind of equipment do you use and how do you come up with these video ideas? And so, as you astutely said, Tim, I put it all kind of into this guide that you can check out. It's like the main link on my LinkedIn page. That's kind of like my first, ebook offering of this type of content because I spent so much time thinking about it. When I started this, I had a couple thousand followers. It never ever would have dawned on me. It just never would have occurred to me that I would one day monetize my audience on LinkedIn, that I would do like brand partnerships with some amazing companies. I mean, it was all just like so far out of the realm of what I was trying to do at the time. And I say that because if you're kind of like, oh, this is totally overwhelming, even doing like one video seems overwhelming. As overwhelming as that might seem to you now, that is exactly how overwhelming what I'm doing now would have seemed to me then. So just don't worry if you're kind of thinking about it like, oh, I wish I could do this more. Maybe it's not even for your personal self. Maybe you're wishing you could do this for your brand. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you are a content and social marketing manager at a company and you wish you could harness this style of content more. I had very little video editing experience. I had done a TV news internship in college. I'd done like some radio DJing in college. That was on old technology, not on CapCut, like none of the tools that we have today. So it's not like I had a bunch of experience working in these types of systems to make this kind of video. And so I had this idea, I had very few followers on LinkedIn, mostly just the people that I was connected to. But I was on maternity leave and I was spending a lot of time watching these TikToks late at night, like watching all these funny videos. And I was like super inspired by the people that I saw making this really funny, like skit style content. And I was like, I wish that I could make something like this that would be for B2B.
Yeah.
And then just like remixing it for like I had the idea, but I had no idea how I would get there. And my first few tries at doing it, I mean, there was a lot left on the cutting room floor that you'll all probably never see, didn't see the light of day, that I just like deleted because it was like way too embarrassing. I remember filming a lot of stuff like at certain times of day in the morning because I was like, oh, this is the only time that there's like enough lighting. Like I didn't know how to work with the lighting that I had in my house. Like I just was like, oh, if it's 8:30, like it's too late. Like I can't record a video that day. Like I just didn't know anything about, setting up a shot. I would love to tell you that I looked at the data and came up with this grand strategy. But to be honest, I kind of ignored a lot of data in this journey. And I had a lot of data early on that told me my text posts outperformed my video posts for a long time. Like I would get hundreds of likes on my text posts on LinkedIn and I would get like fewer likes on my videos. And I just kind of didn't believe that. I was like, I just think that if I keep trying, Delulu is the Solulu so often. And this was definitely one of those moments where I was just like, so Delulu. I just like, I kept doing it against all odds because I just believed in it. So yeah, I kind of went against some of the data. I would use text posts to give me topical insights, but then I would keep feeding that into the video format. If you're listening, you're kind of inspired, but you're not sure what to do. I just think if you keep iterating, it doesn't even have to be something you show to everybody. You don't even have to post all of it on LinkedIn. But if it's like you keep showing it to friends, I had a few friends that I texted my first few videos to, and I was like, is this embarrassing? Is this cringe? Like, what do I do with this information, guys? And they were really honest and helpful and giving me some very good directional feedback. So like a trusted circle of friends and mentors can serve you really, really well.
That's great. Some really practical tips there. Bring it back to Microsoft. This brand of humor, right, that is shining through your LinkedIn profile. Has it been challenging to bring that through? And not that like Microsoft AI's brand, your brand by any stretch. They're different things. However, like, having a brand I don't think of Microsoft as like this big brand. I mean, it's a huge brand, but it's not like this like playful, humorous one, right? So I'm just curious how those two things, have you been able to bring forth any of that into what you're doing, through the corporate?
I think it's a really good question. And what I would say in response to that is I think that video is going to perform the best when it's authentic to you, and authenticity, kind of a corporate buzzword, but I feel like I totally warranted in using this right now. I am creating these humorous skit style videos because it's authentic to me. This is drawing on my experience as an improv actor, somebody who's taking comedy writing classes. Like, this is authentic for me. This is something I've been practicing for
Yeah.
a long time. That might not feel authentic for you. What might feel authentic for you is writing parodies of songs in a B2B way, or I don't know, like doing like parodies of like exercise. I have no idea what your interests are. Maybe you're doing, like, maybe your personal passion is like cooking and you're doing a cooking show and you're making it B2B. I think that is my
Yeah.
takeaway for you, not like be funny. It's just like be you. That is the takeaway. And that is what I try to tell the individuals that I work with on the employee influencer program. It's like, don't watch my videos and think you're supposed to do this. Watch and think, how does this inspire something in me that like I'm going to now bring to the people that follow me, because it's authentically me and myself. And so I also think you get away with more authenticity when you do post from personal profiles, right? Like brand accounts, like, yeah, they're always going to have to be on brand. Posting from our CMO's page, our VP's page, other, even director level or other junior level employees that have something to say, we can let those people be themselves. They're posting it from their own channels. And like, not only is that okay, it's actually encouraged.
Nice. Thank you.
Where should people follow you and your work?
LinkedIn is still the best place to follow me. I'm Heike Young on LinkedIn. If you find the person that works at Microsoft, it's probably me. I don't think there's that many Heikes that work at Microsoft. So hopefully you'll find me on LinkedIn. If you're so inclined as to follow me on TikTok, I do post a lot of, I guess I would say the jokes are like slightly different. I post a lot of like parenting jokes, like mom content, and I'm actively testing a lot of things on TikTok. LinkedIn is like my main platform, and that makes me kind of a weird creator too, because I think for a lot of people, like Instagram or TikTok, that's like their primary creation platform. I'm a LinkedIn creator. It's super weird. I don't know that many other people that are like this. It's like it's a strange category of creators. I live in LA, and so whenever I meet parents at the playground, sometimes I'm like, oh, what are you working on this week? Oh, I'm filming some videos. I'm a content creator, and they're like, oh, cool. So you do Instagram? I'm like, no, not Instagram. Oh, you're a YouTuber then? No, not YouTube. Okay, you do TikTok. Okay, no, I'm not doing TikTok either. People are like, what the heck are you doing? And I have to kind of be like, yeah, it's LinkedIn. But I say it with so much love because I believe that because it's professional, it's your real name behind it, all of those reasons, people are like pretty respectful and kind on LinkedIn for the most part. And when I have had something go viral on TikTok before, people are weird. I don't really like the attention as much. I much prefer going viral on LinkedIn any day of the week, just from like a pure human decency and respectability standpoint.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's been great to get to learn from you, take some inspiration, and yeah, I'm excited to carry it forward. I'm sure our audience is too.
Thanks, Heike.
Oh, thank you all so much for having me. Getting to chat with content marketers is like truly my fam. So appreciate everybody listening in.
So Tim, you ready to be a LinkedIn influencer?
No, I'd rather be on TikTok. No, that was an interesting distinction that I never thought about, like how people respond differently on TikTok versus LinkedIn, a bit more professional. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and the point of one, that's like where professionals are hanging out, people are wearing suits. I don't think a lot of people have their TikTok profile as someone wearing a suit, as themselves wearing a suit. But also the fact you put your name on it is interesting, right?
Well, one thing I wrote down is like, I think there's a lot like content marketers should learn maybe from product marketers. That's something that came up. It's like, that's almost like a blog post maybe. It's like, I think there's some stuff to unpack there. So I thought that was
always thinking about blogs.
Yeah, kind of knew this, but like, the employee advocacy side of like getting employees on LinkedIn and getting them to post there, and thinking like, there's a lot more to it than just saying, oh, for example, here we have a workflow where you can leave your voice message. It's like how can you really empower people to use their personal brand, and then how do you bring in the company brand, and just focusing a lot on that whole process and training and things like that. Like also the soft aspect of that. I think that's actually quite interesting for companies and even for us as an agency.
Yeah, definitely that, right? I feel like we could have gone 3 times as long, just like going way into the weeds on that alone, or going way into the weeds on, how the campaigns team is collaborating with other folks within the Microsoft org. Like there's a lot to learn from Heike. I think that's why she makes a good follow on LinkedIn too. It's because she there are some fun videos there, but she's actually sharing some like insights along the way too that compound nicely. One thing I liked that she talked about was having someone who's focused on content ops on your team, right? And prioritizing that over potentially having writers in-house. If you leave measuring the ROI of content to demand gen to someone outside of your org, you just might not get the views you need to be able to like advocate for yourselves or optimize the program, versus if you do have that owned in-house by someone, very capable, you can do those things. And then I also, of course, like biased, but Heike is right. Like there are a lot of good freelancers and agencies out there. I know one of them, animals.co, check us out. You can, request a sales demo at any time that can help you fill those gaps, right? And help scale better than you can, right?
Yeah, it's almost like the distribution or the production fallacy at scale, that we all just always keep focusing on the production, and so what she was saying, what you're now also saying, is like actually the production in some ways is getting easier. There's other solutions for that. So like, why not focus on other things that are important, like the analytics, and maybe even distribution is something we've talked about before as well. Yeah, that's great.
All right,
so wrap
onward
it up
to our next enterprise episode. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you in a week or so with another great guest.
See ya. Bye-bye.